Good afternoon. I want to welcome everyone to your July meeting of your State Board of Elections for the Commonwealth of Virginia. I want to welcome everybody. I want to acknowledge Ms. Beals, Commissioner, and Travis from the Attorney General's office. You're also here on the dais. Would you call the roll, please, Madam Secretary?
Absolutely. Chairman O'Bannon.
Here.
Vice Chair Dance. Here. Mr. Weinstein.
Here, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right, great.
Here. All right, we have a quorum, and I thank Matthew for joining us remotely today. He was one of those that was here in person at our last emergency meeting, so we appreciate his joining us. I don't want to steal the commissioner's thunder, but I want to just take a minute and thank all of the members of the election community, elect staff, and all the general registrars and all the members of the electoral board who helped us get through a very uneventful primary election day. And I think that's commendable, and I just want to make that point from your board's perspective. Commissioner Beals?
Good afternoon, Chairman O'Bannon, Vice Chair Dance, and members of the board. As you noted, we had 66 localities that had primaries in Virginia on June 20th. And I'd also like to thank our registrars, our electoral board members, and our local officers of election who prepare and set up for every election. As many of you know, election days are usually at least about 15 hours long, with officers of election and local general registrar staff arriving at 5 a.m. and often not completing their duties until after 8 a.m. As everyone knows, Virginia is one of the only states that has multiple elections every year, and it takes thousands of people to run an election. Each year we come to them and we ask if they will work, and each year they put their hands up and they say, yes, I will serve. So I want to publicly thank our officers of election for their service to their community, and also encourage anyone who might be interested in serving in this way to sign up to be an officer of election. We have many elections coming up in the next 18 months that we could use your help with. Today, the board is going to be certifying the results of the primary, as well as consider candidate filing extension requests, split precinct requests that are a result of redistricting and the redrawing of maps, delegations of authority, and then finally the board's policy regarding central absentee precincts. And that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate Madam Secretary reminding me that the next order of business is really approval of 2 sets of minutes. So if you'll present those, please.
Yes, Chairman O'Bannon. The minutes from the May 30th and June 20th meetings have been distributed to the board for their review. And I'm requesting that if there's no corrections or additions that need to be made, that a motion is made to approve them.
All right, is there a motion?
Move to approve, Mr. Chair.
We do these in a block?
Hmm.
All right, so you're,
I move to approve the last.
both sets. Is
Both
Two.
sets of minutes.
there a second?
I second.
All right, call the roll.
All right. Chairman O'Bannon.
Aye.
Vice Chair Dance.
Aye.
Delegate Merricks.
Aye.
Mr. Weinstein.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Mr. Saunders?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Next agenda item will be the certification of the primary election. On June 20th, both the Republican and Democrat parties held a primary for the purpose of selecting their candidates for the November election. 66 localities throughout the Commonwealth held those elections on June 20th. Upon completion of the election, local general registrars entered all relevant election data into our ElectionNet reporting system and the Virginia Election and Registration Information System, or VERIS. In accordance with Virginia Code, within 6 days after the election, local electoral boards conducted provisional ballot meetings in their canvases to ascertain and certify election results at their localities. Upon completion of those canvases, general registrars forwarded their locality certified abstracts of votes to the department. To ensure accuracy of those results, elect staff confirmed all required abstracts were properly completed and submitted, compared turnout to votes cast, and compared results listed in the abstracts to those results entered in the ElectionNet reporting interface and VERIS. and therefore elect staff recommends that the board vote to certify the results of the June 20th, 2023 Democratic and Republican primaries as presented and declare the winners of each primary to be that party's nominee for the November 7th general election. I'm happy to take any questions the board may have, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Any members of the board have any questions? All right. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move that the board certify the results of the June 20, 2023 Democratic and Republican primary elections as presented and declare the winners of each primary to be that party's nominee for the November 7th, 2023 general election.
I second.
Further discussion? Call the roll, please.
Chairman O'Bannon.
Aye.
Vice Chair Dance.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick's.
Aye.
Mr. Weinstein.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
All right. Thank you very much. I think you're up next, Paul.
Yes, sir, I am. Next agenda item for the board to consider is a candidate filing extension. Pursuant to Virginia Code Sections 24.2501 and 24.2502, individuals wanting to be candidates for office must submit a certificate of candidate qualification and a statement of economic interest. As these are required elements for candidate filings, failure to submit one or both documents would prevent anybody from gaining ballot access for an election. Pursuant to Code Section 24.2503, the State Board of Elections has the authority to grant an extension for filing those two documents. That extension would be for 10 days after staff at the department would be notifying those candidates, basically sending them letters, notifying them of the extension, and they'd get 10 additional days to file those required statements. This would be applicable to anybody. If it were to be granted, it would be applicable to any candidate that would need an extension, local or otherwise. So I'm happy to answer any questions if the board has them.
All right, thank you. I just will remind everybody that this board, the first meeting we had for this year, reminded all potential candidates of the requirements to become a candidate. Are you going to go through these individually and present each one?
For each candidate,
The ones that asked for extensions?
Shepard, do you have that list? So the candidates for General Assembly offices that would require an extension are Gregory Maxwell in House of Delegates 39th, running as a Democrat, is missing both of the required statements. Sarah Elizabeth Mays, running in House of Delegates 53rd, running as an independent, is missing both of the required statements. Jessica Rowland in the 74th House of Delegates, running as a Democrat, it would require her to file the statement of economic interest. Eric Sundberg in the House of Delegates 79th, running as an independent, would be required to file the statement of economic interest. Michael Harned, running in the 80th House of Delegates, running as an independent, would be required to file a statement of economic interest. And in the Senate of Virginia 10th, Daniel Tomlinson, running as a Democrat, is missing both documents.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I will say that these are the candidates that we know of that would require extension, but again, this would apply to all candidates, local or otherwise.
All right. Absent objection, I'm going to go ahead and take each one of these separately. And if any of these folks are here or online and wish to speak, we'll be glad to permit them 3 minutes each. So Gregory Maxwell. Is he online? No? Not online and not here. All right. Is there a motion? Hearing none, we'll move on to the next candidate, Sarah Elizabeth Mays. Is she here online? Is there a motion? Absent a motion, we'll move on to Jessica L. Rowland, R-O-W-L-A-N-D. Is she here or online? All right, is there a motion? Absent a motion, we'll move on to Eric A. Sundberg. Mr. Sundberg, you sent us a letter and you're here in person, so welcome.
Figured I'd make sure I get something here. Mr. Chairman, distinguished members of the board, thank you very much. I appreciate you taking the time to hear me. I just want to say all the other paperwork is filed. This was a last minute realization that the box that was not checked was that statement of economic interest. The Department of Elections received my statement of economic interest in the mail on June 30th. And to show you that I was serious about that and didn't want to give up, I had a pre-engagement. My girlfriend said, we're getting on a plane. We have an Oregon wedding. And I still made it down to the post office, made sure that got in the mail as soon as I got off that plane. So I turned in 232 signatures of the required 125. Not only has the board extended deadlines previously for candidates, including in the 79th district, I believe the 232 signatures. So evidently, people are interested in having me on the ballot. They're interested in having a choice in the general election. And I believe to protect and extend democracy here, it is in the best interest of the Commonwealth to ensure that we have competition on the ballot in the 79th district and do grant that extension. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for being here and for your comments. Any members of the board have any questions? Is there a motion? Hearing none, we'll move on to Michael Purdy Harned. In person or online? Is there a motion? Hearing none, I'll move on to Daniel Tomlinson. Mr. Tomlinson, you're here in person, welcome.
Hello, sir.
Yes, sir.
Members. My name is Daniel Tomlinson. I'm here to plead with you to grant the extension I submitted immediately after being informed that I had missed the 20 June deadline for submitting a statement of economic interest and certificate of candidate qualification. I submitted both on time shortly after I was informed that I had made this mistake. I must say I have no excuse. This was a rookie mistake that I made while trying to keep up with the myriad demands that were imposed upon me first time that I run for election of any sort. Unfortunately, while it's nobody's fault but my own, the consequence of being denied the opportunity to run for this office will be felt by hundreds of people who have already worked and contributed to this campaign, and to thousands of people who thought that they would have a voice and be able to participate in the two-party election. If you hesitate to grant my extension because it was my mistake, please grant it, because there are thousands of voters in Central Virginia who deserve to have an opportunity to participate in a two-party election. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your time. Any members have any comments? I do want to thank you for your honesty and for being here today.
Thank you for permitting me.
Yes, sir. Is there a motion? Absent a motion, the request will stay with the board.
Thank you.
All right. So thank you, Mr. Stone. Is that it? Yes, ma'am.
Candidate for it's in the newly drawn 19th House District. I sent a letter on the
Ma'am, come to the microphone, please.
Good afternoon. I sent a letter on Monday.
I'm sorry, reintroduce yourself.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. Makia Little, candidate for Virginia House of Delegates, newly drawn 19th House District. And I sent a letter on Monday. I had called right after the election, but didn't receive a call back. So I came in person on Monday to understand kind of what the options were in my situation. So I CC'd both the Democratic Party of Virginia and the Department of Elections, and I'm not sure what the response is or will be from the Democrats. So I wanted to, I guess, also request an extension on the following grounds, if that's okay for me to read. Prince William County Democratic Committee leadership essentially pre-selected who their nominee would be. and colluded with members of the Fairfax County Democratic Committee and other organizations while violating the party's rules in a manner that manipulated voters to ensure their desired outcome. Prince William County Democratic leadership utilized misleading sample ballots distributed by official committee members and leaders in official committee gear, resulting in a 49-vote loss of my primary campaign. Candidate Henson leveraged the work of the Prince William County Democratic Committee as his personal resume while soliciting endorsements and support from organizations providing financial and human resources. Prince William County Democratic chairperson continued to operate in her official capacity as the committee chair while also serving as the campaign manager for a Democratic candidate for Senate with a primary challenger, and allowed my opponent to remain in his role as senior vice chair after filing to challenge me in the primary, stating that it was poor practice but not against policy, and blocked members of committee members with an expressed desire to challenge preferred candidates in other primary races as well. Prince William County Democratic leadership adjusted the ballot qualification filing time from 12 p.m. to 7 p.m. to accommodate my opponent. Prince William County Democratic leadership manipulated membership access to committees by way of broken, non-functioning website forms and failed to ensure timely follow-up for residents during committee membership. FCDC leadership repeatedly allowed the deletion and removal of communications by me on the committee district social media group pages and provided erroneous meeting dates during final primary campaign weeks. Prince William County Democratic leadership manipulated other candidates, elected officials, local business owners, organizations, et cetera, into endorsing and supporting my opponent or withholding support from me. And lastly, Prince William County Democratic leadership took extensive actions to include harassing a local business owner and nonprofit organizational leadership to cancel a bilingual community voter registration drive they believe would benefit my campaign.
Your 3 minutes is up, so.
So for these reasons, I'm asking for an extension to run as an independent on the ballot, since I had no good faith opportunity to qualify as a Democrat. Thank you.
Thank you. Any members have any questions? You wish,
Chairman O'Bannon, if I could have 30 seconds
on this?
on this issue. Yes,
All
yeah.
right.
I apologize for being late. We had some traffic issues coming down 64 today.
All right, so why don't you introduce yourself and speak to it briefly?
Sure, just be brief. My name is Chris Woodfin. I represent a candidate that will be affected by this extension, running for local office in Clark County. It's a school board issue, so it's an independent candidate. Basically, she's filed her 501, filed the 505, got the petitions, everything was done. She's a new candidate and just mistakenly forgot to file the statement of economic interest. It has been filed at this time, I believe. It was
Are you
supposed to be.
speaking to this?
It's on the candidate. No, I'm speaking to the candidate extension issue
uh,
that you're on, just in general.
Well, we've already been through all this. What's the name of your, we'll let you speak.
It's not a legislative district. It's a local school board candidate that will be affected by the extension.
Well, we've not granted any extension.
Well, I know, well, exactly. It's a local school board candidate that will be affected by whether or not you grant an extension on any of the certificate of candidacies or statement of economic interest.
So complete your comments.
Basically just that I'm asking to grant the extension as they did for the primary candidates earlier, a few months ago. They granted the extensions on the 501s where candidates were late. This is just a brand new candidate. And again, no excuse, just asking that you go ahead and grant the extensions for the 501s and the sixth statement of economic interest to allow the one that she has now submitted to be accepted by the Clark County Registrar.
Thank you, Mr. Woodfin.
All right, thank you, sir.
All right. Anybody wish to take any actions on what's been presented here?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Matthew.
Hi, I don't know if this is an appropriate time. I think, if it is, I think it'd be helpful for candidates and the SBE, registrars, and everyone involved in the nomination and the qualification process, if staff would be willing to kind of put together a study and a report of the last, 5 or 10 years and see the circumstances which led to the SBE granting extension or denying an extension. And the goal, as I see it, would be to develop a policy document that we could post on the Department of Elections website, and candidates can refer to it. We can refer to it. The local parties can refer to it. And while we have the ultimate discretion on whether to grant an extension or not under the code, I think it might be helpful for people to kind of have kind of a set of expectations going into it. And hopefully that will reduce the number of extension requests in the future and everyone can get their paperwork in time. So not a motion, just something I think would be worthy of staff looking into.
Thank you very much for bringing that thought forward. Let me just make a comment. Over the years I've served, we've had some which we chose to act one way, some another. In recent years, we've been much stricter. And I think your idea of some guidelines or, for lack of a better word, criteria, there are issues here. When somebody asks for a late extension, to some degree, you disenfranchise the folks that did follow the rules. And so I think if we have a little guidance document, that might be of value. Commissioner Beals?
Yeah, we'd be happy to do that.
All right, well, thank you for bringing that forward. We'll pursue that and hopefully bring something back for the board to look at. All right, thank you. Mr. Saunders, are you off the hook?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That'll do it for me.
Okay. All right, next, Claire Scott, welcome.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the State Board. I'm bringing once again some more split precincts. As you know, under 24.2-307, when there is a split between two districts and one does not meet the minimum number of registered voters, a split precinct may be applied for and approved by the State Board of Elections. And as you may recall, for a county, the minimum is 100, for a city is 500. So I'll first start off with Fluvanna County. Fluvanna County, they're reapplying for a split between the 55th and 56th House of Delegates districts. This will affect 19 voters. This was previously applied for during your August of 2022 meeting, and it was granted. And as it still falls below that 100 registered voter threshold, the elect recommends approving this split.
Thank you. And their paperwork's in order.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Any members of the board have any questions or comments? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the split precinct for Fluvanna County.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Call the roll, please.
Chairman O'Bannon,
Aye.
Vice Chair Dance,
Aye.
Delegate Merrick's,
Aye.
Mr. Weinstein,
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
Claire, let me just give you a friendly comment. It's a long A. It's Fluvanna.
So Van, I was really thinking about, I was like, I don't know which way to go, so.
All right, next.
Yeah. But anyways, on to Louisa County. They previously applied for this split back in 2021, where it was granted. This is a split between the 56th and 59th House of Delegates District. This affects one household for that split. And since this only affects two registered voters, this is under the 100 voter minimum, and thus elect recommends approving the split precinct.
Thank you. Any discussion? Any comments online? Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the split precinct for Louisa County.
Is there a second?
I second.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Chairman O'Bannon.
Aye.
Vice Chair Dance,
Aye.
Delegate Merrick's,
Aye.
Mr. Weinstein,
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
All right.
All right.
Have you another?
Nope, that's it, but I believe I'm still next on your agenda.
Okay, go for it.
So now, since we've done this with precincts, we'll talk about delegations of authority. The State Board of Elections is authorized to prescribe standard forms for voter registration, elections, to supervise, coordinate, adopt regulations governing the work of local electoral boards, registrars, and officers of election. The department is authorized to establish and maintain a statewide automated voter registration system to include procedures for ascertaining current addresses of registrants, to require cancellation of records for registrants and qualified, to provide electronic applications for voter registration and absentee, and to provide electronic delivery of absentee voters to military and overseas voters. The elect conducts the SBE's administrative and programmatic operations and discharges the SBE's duties consistent with the delegated authorities. So there are a handful of authorities that were either retained or delegated to the Department of Elections based on recent legislation. First is in Chapter 1, 24.2, listed in the memos that reflect these changes. The State Board may institute proceedings for the removal of any member of electoral board or a general registrar. This will be retained by the SBE. Moving on to Chapter 2. This is a reflection of new legislation that again just reflects that the State Board has the authority to remove members of local electoral boards as well as general registrars. And also they will approve the petition for removal of an officer, as well as the standards for which a general registrar will review the application for a removal of an officer. Moving on to Chapter 8, the State Board shall promulgate additional standards and instructions for the conduct of recounts in elections for any office to which more than one candidate will be elected. This authority will remain with the State Board of Elections. And then finally, Chapter 9, concerning special reports for certain large pre-election expenditures. Code currently says such contribution or expenditure shall be reported electronically, and the report shall be received by the State Board. This will be delegated to the Department of Elections, who will collect those reports on the SBE's behalf. Thus, Elect recommends approving the delegations of authority as presented.
All right, thank you. So those are the new ones that she went over. Then there's about 60 pages of existing ones.
Yes,
And we're asked to also sign off on those again for this year.
yes.
Okay, so that's before us. I do want to make one comment, probably get in trouble, but I want to remind the members of the board that on the existing delegations, there are two which the board retains. One of those is the action on split precincts, which we just did. And the other is how we throw the dice and cast lots for slots. Because that seems to be, and I'm not necessarily recommending that we change that right now, but if we ever chose to get around to it, I think the split precincts would be a no-brainer.
Okay.
But what's before us today are the new ones and the current ones, which we've already acted on and are before us. So any questions, any public comment on these?
Mr. Chair, you ready for?
I'm ready.
I move that the board approve the proposed delegations of authority pursuant to the Virginia Administrative Process Act, and I further move that all prior delegations of authority be rescinded.
Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll.
Chairman O'Bannon.
Aye.
Vice Chair Dance.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick's.
Aye.
Mr. Weinstein.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
All right,
Thank you very much.
thank you. Who's up next? Ms. Lawless, you couldn't get through a meeting without presenting, could you? Welcome.
Just like to see all your faces, that's why. Good afternoon, members of the board. Chapter 152 of the 2023 Acts of Assembly of the Commonwealth of Virginia directs the State Board of Elections to adopt a policy regarding the counting and reporting of absentee ballots in central absentee voter precincts, colloquially known as CAP. In order to ensure that the results of absentee ballots are cast in person, are reported separately from mailed absentee ballots, and are posted promptly on the State Board's website, and two, the results of all absentee ballots cast by voters are reported by precinct in accordance with the law and are posted on the State Board State Board of Elections website no later than noon on the 7th calendar day following the election. The bill requires such policy to be adopted by the State Board by September 1st, and copies to be sent to the chairman of the House Senate Committee on Privileges and Elections to be notified of the policy within 7 days. The attached policy before you reflects current best practices within the department and centralizes already existing guidance into one easily accessible policy document. The policy covers both pre-processing and election night reporting. The resulting guidance was informed by both 1 VAC 207040, which passed by this body in April of 2022, which further defines the pre-processing process outlined in 24.2-709.1. It was also informed by a work group that the department ran back in 2021, and the subsequent report that the department released in the fall of 2021, which basically went over administrative considerations in implementing precinct level reporting. Without further ado, recommends that the SBA adopt the proposed policy regarding counting and reporting of absentee ballots in a central absentee voter precinct if there are no questions concerning the policy.
Thank you. Matthew, did you have a comment?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm going to move, and I'll speak to this afterwards. I'm going to move that we delay consideration of this item until the August 15th SBE meeting. And I have no concerns with the policy, especially the provisions in Section 3B dealing with authorized representatives at the pre-processing meeting. I just would like some assurance from our council that allowing authorized representatives of parties to attend the pre-processing of a primary which they don't have any candidates is authorized under code, specifically 24.2-655. Again, I have no issues with the policy. I just want to make sure that our policy itself does not extend beyond what is granted to us in the code. So that's my motion, and happy to talk about it more if you'd like.
Great. Thank you very much. We appreciate you reading everything. All right. Is there a second?
I second, Mr. Chair.
All right. Is anybody online that wants to speak to this issue, Franchelle?
Yes, I have Anne Gregorian.
All right.
Hello, I'm sorry I speak every meeting, but thank you for taking my comment. I also want to reference an item, section 3A of this policy. Again, referring to parity during pre-processing, it appears that this section only applies in the event of a dual party primary and is omitted relative to general elections. And the parity of election officers during the general election should not be left open to the interpretation of localities. And I would respectfully request that the proposed policy be clarified or amended by the board to specify the requirement of parity applies to both general elections and dual primaries. Thank you very much for taking my comment.
Thank you for your time. Anybody else?
Shelley Oberlander.
All right. Welcome, Ms. Oberlander.
Hello. Thank you, Chairman O'Bannon. I just first want to thank you all for giving us the policy to use the risk limiting audit batch comparison method, which we allowed in, participated in on June 28th. That went well. And we thank you for that. We'll continue to assess it and pass our recommendations on to the board. And we thank the members of elect who came and observed and assisted in that process. I wanted to speak to two items on the agenda for today in this section. I wanted to say that it's not clear what the current policy is and the changes are. I know when you have a General Assembly bill, there's an italicized portion which clarifies what the current law is and what the proposed changes to the law are. And so it's not clear in this proposal what's current policy and what's the proposed policy. But there's two items I wanted to speak to. The one is on page 109, where it says that absentee ballot results will be presented within 7 days after the election. And code requires in 24.2-709B that absentee ballots be counted by noon on the third day after the election. And so it would seem that we could report absentee ballot results by the end of the third day after the election. And I don't know why it's being extended to the 7th day for those results to be submitted. And then along with what Ms. Gregorian said, page 111, It was not clear that bipartisan election officers need to be utilized, and Virginia has a rich history as long with in code of bipartisanship of election officers for all of the election processes. Not only does that ensure integrity, it also allows election officers to participate in all elections, gaining the experience they need to be excellent participants in the future elections. So I would agree to please clarify in writing that it be bipartisan election officers. Thank you so much for listening to my comments, sir.
Thank you very much for bringing them. Anybody else, Rancho? All right, so the motion before us is to defer this for a month to August meeting. It still meets our deadlines, and we'll ask Mr. Andrews to opine on the respective issues presented. Thank you. All right, that completed our work on that agenda item. All right, we're down now to,
We didn't.
Oh, yeah, we need to vote.
oh, you all want to vote? Okay, I'm sorry. All in favor of the motion?
Aye. You go.
Chairman O'Bannon.
Aye.
Vice Chair Dance.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick.
Aye.
Mr. Weinstein.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
My apologies, I'm reminded of a resident one time on rounds in the neurology department, he said he had a temporary dumb attack, so it's not a TIA, it's a TDA. All right, public comment. I make one notification for everybody. I think we have decided that we'll choose to do our public comment at the start of the meetings going forward. And that will include both topics on the agenda as well as topics not on the agenda. So we'll get public input right up front, so folks don't have to wait, and then we'll act on the agenda after that. Any open public comment now?
I have Joanne Ports. Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you very much. My name is Joan Port. I'm the president of the League of Women Voters of Virginia, and I just wish to reiterate the League's position to support ERIC. ERIC remains an important nonpartisan system that improves election security and keeps our voter lists accurate. It is somewhat ironic that at this time when people think that fraud is increasing, that we should get rid of a system that combats just that. There's no viable alternative to ERIC. It is the best system we have to ensure the security and accuracy of our voter registration lists. While some have tried to build alternatives, these have failed and has resulted in many people being purged from the voter rolls. There is no time to play politics with election security. Decisions about election administration should be based on best practices, the needs of the local election officials, and what works for the voters. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Anybody else?
Good afternoon. Ian Kinney, Charles City. 2 accidents out on the highway, so sorry. I came before you at your last meeting to ask for help and guidance on another issue in our county. At the start of the previous election, we had our early voting machine open with 15 votes already on it. The 15 votes reflected in both the public and the protected number. We are asking for someone on the board to either help us or direct us to someone who could make sure this does not happen again. I recognize that 15 votes is not a lot and that it made no difference whatsoever in the outcome of the election. However, we all know that some elections have been won by fewer votes. I'm not concerned about 15 votes. What I'm concerned with is the fact that a machine that was zeroed out and locked at the LNA was then unlocked and opened with 15 votes on it. Our question is, how did 15 votes get on a machine that was zeroed out and locked and recorded? Our registrar will not explain how this could have happened to our Republican committee chairperson. She just won't talk to her. This is not something we are content with letting just slide. So we are again asking somebody, please give us guidance. How do we check this? How do we make sure it does not ever happen again? Thank you.
Thank you. May I ask you one question? Are you on the electoral board?
No.
You're a citizen?
Yep.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Online, I have Nicholas.
Thank you, Chair and members of the board. My name is Nick Gothard, and I'm the Election Protection Manager of VCET, the Virginia Civic Engagement Table, where we work with over 60 nonprofit partners to envision a multiracial democracy in Virginia, where the full diversity of our Commonwealth is actively participating, representing, and transforming our democracy. We're extremely concerned about the May decision to withdraw from the Electronic Registration Information Center, or ERIC. As a nonpartisan advocacy and action organization, VCET has long advocated for safe, secure, and common sense policies to make Virginia the best place for voters. The Commonwealth of Virginia, as a founding member of ERIC, took a step toward the realization of that vision, working closely with other states to keep the verification of our voter rolls nonpartisan and secure. The withdrawal from ERIC undermines every effort that Virginia has made toward robust, comprehensive, and accurate list maintenance, and we urge you to reconsider your withdrawal from the most effective tool in voter list maintenance and to put the integrity of our systems above partisan politics. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Anybody else, Rancho? No other comments. All right. Well, thank you all very much. Delegate Merrick's, recognize you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. Pursuant to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A7, I move that the board go into closed session for the purpose of discussing pending and threatened litigation. In accordance with Section 2.2-3712F, Susan Beals, Commissioner of Elections, and Travis Andrews of the Office of the Attorney General will attend the closed session because their presence will reasonably aid the board in its consideration of the subject of the meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Call the roll, please.
Chairman O'Bannon.
Aye.
Vice Chair Dance.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick's.
Aye.
Mr. Weinstein.
Aye.
Secretary Elvis Long, aye.
All right, then I want to thank the public, both online and in person, for attending. Our next meeting is August 15th, I think. Is that right?
Yeah.
August 15th, location to be determined. All right, well, thank you all for attending, and we'll be moving into closed session. Oh, and we're going to do standby in August? Our next meeting will not be this short.
What you mean by that?
Stand by your end.
Oh, my.
And Franchelle, do I just stay at this link? Yeah, okay.
Just stay online.
Nice, let us know when we're good to go. Yes, sir. Oh, by the way, don't leave till you sign up.
Hey, Matthew?
Can hear you.
Mr. Chairman,
All right, yes, sir.
I move to reconvene the meeting in open session and take a roll call vote certifying that to best of each member's knowledge, only such public business matters lawfully exempted from open meeting requirements under this chapter, and only such public business matters as were identified in the motion by which the closed meeting was convened were heard or discussed by the State Board of Elections.
Have a second?
I second, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Please call the roll.
Chairman O'Bannon.
Aye.
Vice Chair Dance.
Aye.
Delegate Merrick's.
Aye.
Mr. Weinstein. Mr. Weinstein.
I said, aye, can you hear me?
Okay.
We got you now. Thank you.
Secretary Alves Long, aye.
All right. There's no other business. I will adjourn the meeting with appreciation to the board for your good work today, and please don't leave till you sign everything.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Matthew.